Man, let me guess. Some of you listening today feel like a shell of a man. You have no idea what happened to the man that used to be on fire. The man with the plan. The guy that had it all together, that had his future looking bright. All he had to do was start walking that way. You can't pinpoint where you got lost, when it started to fall apart for you. As the years went on, you started to pack on more weight. You started to become more disconnected from your wife. Maybe you started becoming more disconnected from God. You have no idea when you stopped making promises to yourself. So when we look at this, where does confidence actually come from? For such a long time, I lost my confidence. Why? My health was in the toilet. My physical body was I felt like it was so gone that I didn't know that I would ever start to see muscle and start to lose weight. And I realized that confidence doesn't come from success. It doesn't come from being jacked. It doesn't come from being rich or married or the house or the cars. I found confidence from this one thing. And that one thing was just showing up and doing what you said you were going to do. Now, that may seem crazy. That may sound like I'm completely insane. But hear me out. When I was younger, I thought all the material things is what made me successful. And from the success, I would have confidence. But as I quickly realized, as I had fallen down to the lowest level I'd ever been, as I explained in my book, Beardology, I never was clinically diagnosed with depression, but I feel that at my lowest moment, in the pit, in the pain, brother, I was depressed. So what did I do? I started focusing on micro wins every day. In this day and age on social, we hear about, oh, your macros and this and that. You don't need to focus on that, brother. If you're struggling right now and you're struggling with confidence and you're struggling with clarity and you want to get that man that you used to be back, that man that had everything figured out and the man that didn't blink an eye at the bullshit that was thrown his way. You don't need the macro. You need the micro. You need the micro wins every day. You see, because I started to get up early. I started to eat more clean. I started to keep my word to myself and to my wife, because some of you are doing this every day or doing the opposite every day. Some of you are you'll set the alarm, but then you hit snooze. You'll say you'll eat clean, but it lasts 3 days. And by 3 p.m. that day, you're crushing some cookies. You say you'll work out, but then you sit there and lie to yourself saying, you know what, today was a hard day. I'm going to do this tomorrow. And then you never do it. See, that's how you start to lose your clarity. That's how you start to lose your confidence. This becomes a gradual slide, gentlemen. This doesn't happen overnight. And neither will your comeback to your confidence, your comeback to your clarity is not going to be overnight. Your comeback to power as a man, to the man that God has called you to be right now, is going to be gradual. The wins are going to be in the micro category. So we just celebrated 4th of July, and one of my favorite movies is The Patriot. And in that movie, if you have not seen it, there's this scene where his son is just shot by a British soldier, and they take off. And as the dad, Mel Gibson is like, no, this is not okay. I'm going to take my revenge. And so he grabs his younger sons. They run into the woods and they start picking off these British soldiers. But he tells his kids one thing: aim small, miss small. See, too many of you are focused on the macro result. You're focused on the version of you that has a six-pack, that has an ungodly amount of muscle. Your bank account is overflowing like Scrooge McDuck or whatever. You're focused on the macro plan. And I'm not saying that having grandiose plans and dreams and hopes is something you shouldn't focus on. But if you want to get your clarity back and you want to have that confidence, you got to start small. You got to make one promise. And every day you got to make 1 win. And then that turns into 3 wins. And then it turns into 10 wins. And then it turns into 3 months and 6 months and 1 year. And then, oh my gosh, you're in shape. You're closer to that macro version of yourself that you want to move towards. So whatever is something that seems so ridiculously achievable, it doesn't matter what it is. It just has to be achievable. 10 push-ups first thing in the morning. No sugar for 24 hours. Going for a walk every night. Journaling 3 things that you conquered today in a journal. Doesn't matter what it is. Just keep the damn promise. And if you do this day over day, week over week, month over month, year over year, you're in for some really big results. You're going to start to feel your power come back. You're going to start to gain that spark that you're so desperately seeking fill you up. And so why does this work for broken dads and broken men? It works because it's a plan. It works because you leave essentially nothing on the table to not do this. And keeping your promise as a provider and a protector and all of that is what you're really searching for. Because all the things that you seek, the fire inside, doing what you say you'll do, the wealth, the relationships, the fitness, you made the promise to yourself. And when you make the promise or when you break the promise to yourself, that's when all those feelings start to come back. That's when the feeling of failure starts to come back. See, most men, most dads, they let it slide, man. They skip 1 workout. They skip 1 meal. That turns into 2, which turns into 10, which turns into 2 years. So focus on the micro. Focus on 3 things to conquer every day for the next 7 days. And do not go to bed until you've conquered those. And watch your mind shift. Watch your confidence shift. And if you don't think this works, try it and then make a comment, gentlemen. So until then, dominate daily.